Welcome to another SmartTechCheck EduSeries episode. I'm Mark Vena, CEO and Principal Analyst at SmartTech Research, and the objective of this episode is pretty simple. I want to provide a digestible overview of the recent Red Hat Summit, which took place in Atlanta, Georgia earlier this week. And trust me, digestible matters here. Red Hat Summit was packed with details. OpenShift, RHEL, Red Hat AI, inference, agents, governance, MCP, skills, virtualization, hybrid cloud. It was a lot. And it was overwhelming. That is not a criticism of the technology. The substance was clearly there. But as someone covering Red Hat as a newer tech analyst in this space, the messaging was daunting. One former IBM and Red Hat executive once described Red Hat to me as a high-tech plumbing company. That phrase stuck with me because it is both funny and brutally accurate. Red Hat is not trying to be the shiny AI app.
It is not trying to be the model company. It wants to be the thing underneath everything else, the operating foundation that keeps AI from becoming chaos. That is the story here. AI plumbing is getting ambitious. And in a cloud world that is rapidly becoming more AI-oriented, Red Hat wants its plumbing to become strategic infrastructure.
Here is the cleanest way to think about Red Hat Summit message. Red Hat wants to be the control layer for enterprise AI. Not another model vendor, not another cloud vendor, not another flashy AI assistant with a slick demo and a murky enterprise deployment story. Red Hat is saying, you already run complex infrastructure. You already live in a hybrid world. You already have systems that cannot break. Let us help you build, run, and govern AI on top of that reality. That is a strong message, but it needs to be said that simply. The company is positioning OpenShift, RHEL, and Red Hat AI as the rails for agentic workloads. In other words, Red Hat does not want to own the train. It wants to own the tracks, the switches, the signals, and the safety systems. That is classic Red Hat. Linux became the foundation. Kubernetes became the foundation. Now Red Hat wants enterprise AI operations to become standardized in the same way.
The issue is that the company sometimes buries that powerful story under too much terminology. The simple story is good. Red Hat just needs to make sure buyers can actually hear it.
The keynote frame from Red Hat was actually one of the strongest parts of the summit. The message was not AI is cool. Everyone already knows AI is cool. The smarter message was that complexity is rising faster than resources. That is the real enterprise problem. IT teams are being asked to keep legacy systems alive, manage virtualization costs, modernize applications, support containers, secure hybrid environments, and now somehow launch serious AI initiatives on top of all that. That is a brutal operating environment. Red Hat's answer is one platform model, one foundation that can support virtual machines, containers, and AI workloads. That sounds basic until you look at what most enterprises are actually dealing with. They have old systems that cannot go down. They have newer cloud-native workloads that need speed. And now they have AI systems that introduce unpredictable compute demand, governance questions, and cost surprises.
This is where the high-tech plumbing label actually becomes a compliment. Plumbing is not glamorous, but when it breaks, nothing else matters. Red Hat's strongest argument is that enterprise AI needs dependable plumbing before it needs another model demo.
Red Hat AI 3.4 was clearly the centerpiece announcement. The company described it as a unified metal-to-agent platform. That is a mouthful, but the idea is straightforward. Red Hat wants to connect the full AI stack, from core hardware to autonomous agents, without forcing enterprises to rebuild everything at each layer. At the bottom, you have the metal. That means GPUs, CPUs, and NPUs from major hardware players like NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel. Above that, you have the platform foundation. That means OpenShift and RHEL, or in plain English, Kubernetes and the operating system layer. Then you move into AI services. That includes inference, model as a service, and AgentOps. The pitch is that enterprises should be able to run AI across this full stack with consistency, portability, governance, and control. That matters because enterprise AI is not just about building a prototype. The prototype is the easy part. Production is where things get ugly.
Red Hat is trying to make production AI look less like a science project and more like a managed enterprise workload. That is not flashy, but it is exactly where Red Hat has credibility.
One of the most important themes from Red Hat Summit was token economics. That may sound nerdy, but it is actually the business hook. Enterprises cannot stay just token consumers forever. It is easy to swipe the corporate card for frontier model access when usage is limited. But once AI adoption scales, the bill gets very real very fast. That is where Red Hat's argument starts to land. Use frontier models where they truly matter. Self-host open models where control, cost, privacy, and predictability matter more. Route workloads intelligently across clouds, data centers, and the edge. That is the hybrid AI story. The bigger idea is that inference should be treated like a production workload, not just an API expense line. That framing is smart because CFOs and CIOs will eventually ask the same uncomfortable question. Why are we renting every ounce of intelligence from someone else?
Red Hat's answer is not that every company should build its own frontier model. That would be ridiculous. The answer is that enterprises need more control over where AI runs, how much it costs, and what data it touches. That is a strong business case. Less AI magic, more economic control.
Inference may not sound sexy, but it could become one of the biggest battlegrounds in enterprise AI. Training gets the headlines, models get the hype, but inference is where AI actually runs, scales, and sends the bill. Red Hat made a big push here. The company announced that Red Hat AI Inference expands beyond OpenShift to any managed Kubernetes service, starting with validated blueprints for CoreWeave and Microsoft Azure AKS. That matters because Red Hat is trying to say, we are not locking you into one cloud, one cluster, or one hardware stack. The technical heart of this story is LLMD, which handles distributed inference orchestration. In plain English, that means smarter routing, better scale, and more efficient use of expensive compute. Then there is VLLM, the open source inference engine Red Hat is backing as a central runtime across deployment targets. This is the plumbing story again, but now applied to AI execution.
The customer benefit is simple. Run the same inference stack wherever it makes sense. Public cloud, private data center, edge. Do not rebuild the whole thing every time your deployment target changes. That is not just a technical convenience. That is strategic leverage.
AgentOps was another major theme, and it may be the most important governance story Red Hat told. The reason is simple. Agents are not chatbots. Chatbots answer questions. Agents do things. They call tools. They access systems. They trigger workflows. They make decisions across multiple steps. That creates a new trust problem. If an AI agent takes an action inside the enterprise, companies need to know what happened, why it happened, which system authorized it, and whether it violated policy. Red Hat's answer is to make agents observable, attributable, and controllable across autonomous workflows. That includes cryptographic identity, so actions can be tied to verified agents. It includes ML flow and prompt management, so testing moves from vibes to evidence. It includes Eval Hub for structured quality and safety scoring. And it includes red teaming to surface risks before workloads hit production. That is a lot of detail, but the simple idea is this.
In the agentic AI era, governance cannot sit off to the side as a compliance checkbox. It has to become core infrastructure. Red Hat is leaning into that hard, and frankly, it should. This is where enterprise buyers will get nervous, and Red Hat has a credible role to play.
Red Hat also surrounded the core platform story with ecosystem announcements. The biggest name, of course, is NVIDIA. Red Hat AI Factory with NVIDIA is about secure, long-running enterprise agents and production AI blueprints built on validated infrastructure. That is Red Hat trying to combine its hybrid cloud credibility with NVIDIA's AI infrastructure dominance. Then there is the MCP catalog. MCP is one of those acronyms that can make normal people's eyes glaze over, but the concept matters. Agents need safe, structured ways to connect to tools, data, and systems. Red Hat wants to make those connections discoverable, deployable, and governed instead of chaotic. The skills repository is another interesting piece. This gives agents practical Red Hat know-how, from support tickets to lightspeed actions right out of the box. And then you have confidential containers, which extend OpenShift level security to sensitive agent workloads at runtime.
The message under all the acronyms is actually pretty clear. Agents need safe tools. They need trusted runtimes. They need reusable operational skills. Red Hat is trying to provide that connective tissue before agentic AI turns into another unmanaged mess.
Here is the part that could easily get lost. Red Hat Summit was heavily AI oriented, but the non-AI story still matters a lot. Virtualization and hybrid cloud remain the commercial wedge. In fact, a lot of the customer urgency still comes from infrastructure pain, not AI ambition. The VMware situation has created real pressure for many enterprise customers. Costs are up. Migration conversations are active. Modernization is back on the table. That gives Red Hat an opening. OpenShift is being positioned as one platform for virtual machines, containers, and AI workloads. That is a more grounded buyer conversation than, please trust us with your agentic future. The path Red Hat wants is pretty clear. Start with VMs, move into containers, then extend that same OpenShift operating model into AI agents. That story works because it does not require enterprises to jump straight into the deep end of AI.
The public safety and banking examples helped ground the narrative. These are environments where systems cannot fail, latency matters, and governance is not optional. AI gives Red Hat freshness, but OpenShift modernization may still be the easier near-term sales motion. That is the commercial reality.
Here is my analyst take. Red Hat Summit had substance, a lot of it, almost too much. The company clearly understands enterprise AI as an operations problem, not just a model problem. That is the right lens. Most enterprises do not need more hype. They need control, portability, security, governance, and a way to make AI work inside messy real-world environments. Hybrid AI is a credible counterweight to blind frontier model consumption. AgentOps, inference, and governance all address real enterprise pain points. So the technology story is strong, but the messaging needs work. There were too many acronyms, too many layers, too many terms that make sense if you already live inside the Red Hat universe, but can overwhelm buyers, analysts, and mainstream business audiences. That is not a small problem. Without question, Red Hat has a compelling story. Build, run, and govern enterprise AI anywhere without losing control.
That should be impossible to misunderstand. Right now, the plumbing is impressive, but Red Hat needs to make the plumbing story sharper, cleaner, and more buyer-friendly. That wraps this SmartTechCheck EduSeries episode. Please like the video, leave a comment, and let me know what topics you want me to tackle next. And please subscribe to the SmartTechCheck podcast on YouTube for more straight talk on the tech stories that matter.